Hey, this is Roy Crumrine with the Welding Tips and Tricks podcast. For this week's Stubby episode, we want to thank CK Worldwide for sponsoring. If you have any questions on what torches you've got or what torch parts you need, head over to ckworldwide.com and check out their data sheets. There's a wealth of information available right at your fingertips on their webpage. Also be sure to follow them on Instagram and see how everybody uses their torches out in the industry. Thank you again to CK Worldwide for sponsoring this Stubby episode. And now, Jonathan's going to take it to read this week's question.
Hey, this is Jonathan Lewis. For today's Stubby episode, we want to try to tackle the following question. Some people have told me not to worry about getting certified while I'm in welding school because the papers that I would get really won't do anything for me after I am done. That's a very good question, and actually one that comes up quite often on forums and has been asked of us in the past, and we have referred to this question on the main podcast before. But I think it makes for a good question for this Stubby episode. While generally I would agree with you that the actual papers that you get or the actual certifications might not mean a whole lot to a potential employer or somebody else down the road, I would highly advise and recommend that you pay attention to these welding tests in class and really soak in everything you can and really focus on trying to pass them. And here's some reasons why. You don't want to show up to a potential employer and they hand you some test plates or some coupons and they say, here, take a 3G, take a 4G, take a whatever. And it'd be the first time that you've encountered a welding test. You're in welding school to learn a lot of things, and one of those things is to take and to pass welding tests. Perfect opportunity for you to focus on how to pass these, get instruction from your teacher or even classmates that have passed with you, and really hone your skills in so that when you go out into the real world, you can very easily pass these tests when they're handed to you. Another thing that I would say about this is I wouldn't necessarily say that it's useless so far as the piece of paper because really it's a source of pride for you. I mean, at least it should be, I would think. You know, you're in the school to pass, you're in the school to learn a trade, and when you pass that welding test and you get that certificate in your hand, I mean, that's a proud moment right there. You know, you're proud for yourself that you really put the work in, you earned it. You pass this test, maybe your wife, your husband, your parents, whatever, is very proud of you, and I would highly encourage you to take and pass these tests, if nothing else for that. But so far as the papers being valuable or worth something to a potential employer, generally that is true to the point that you're going to have to likely retake the same certification for your potential employer. Usually it's because you have to certify or qualify to their WPS, to their procedures. Even though you might have taken the exact same thing in welding school, it still wouldn't necessarily count in most people's eyes because you're not certified to that company's WPS. There are clauses, there are allowances in cases where an engineer can accept your past certification, and I would hate for you to have the opportunity to walk right into a place and an engineer accept your certification, you know, and you decided that maybe it wasn't worth your time in school, so you didn't take it, you know, you could have passed and walked right in, so to speak. If nothing else, it's just good practice for you. I mean, really, really it is. There's no better opportunity for you. It's under a lower pressure situation. Generally, when you're taking a welding test to get a job, you're under pressure. I mean, you might have some mouths to feed, a wife and kids, or whatever your situation is, and you will be a lot more nervous there. So I would very much push you to take and pass these tests and take them very, very seriously. Don't necessarily focus on the paper and the value that it may or may not give you down the road. Another thing that I would say is, and we've mentioned this on the main podcast, that these papers, these certifications, they potentially might give you the leg up over your competition. In some cases, when you're applying for a job, you know, you'll submit past certifications and, you know, you would submit the certification and the paperwork that you got from that school. Some cases that might give you a leg up over your competition where they see that you've taken these tests and you've passed 1, 2, 3, 6, whatever, welding certifications or tests in the past, and maybe you'll do very good for them in the future as well. Again, it's just that chance that you might get that interview over somebody else that has not submitted some welding tests, or maybe has never taken a test before. And that alone is worth, on top of everything else we've talked about, that alone is worth its weight in gold. I mean, I want every opportunity I can to secure a job for my family and for my family's future. And if I can submit a welding test or a paperwork from a welding school and get that interview, if nothing else, and that allows me the potential of earning a living for my family, by all means, please do that. So again, don't worry about what you're going to be afterwards. You don't know what's going to happen after you get out of school, but focus on that test and passing that test and learning all you can while you're in school. Hope that gives some insight to the question. I know there's many opinions about this out there. And again, this is just mine for this Stubby episode.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, Jonathan, for answering this question. And we also want to thank CK Worldwide for sponsoring this Stubby episode. Again, head on over to CK Worldwide and check out all the great information they have available on their webpage. And be sure to follow them on Instagram at CK Worldwide. If you have a question you'd like to hear answered on the Stubby episode, be sure to send them to weldingtipsandtrickspodcast@gmail.com, and in the subject line, if you could put Stubby, that'd be great. We really look forward to hearing your questions. Until next week, have a great one.